It is the pleasure of the La Traditional Council and the last two to invite you today to this gathering to disclaim and set the record straight as regards some recent happenings within the Ghana traditional area. The attention of the last two and the La Traditional Council have been drawn to a poster, copies of which are attached, of Gasen Yeleyeli, which was organized by the Ghana Paramount Stool in collaboration with the Ghana Traditional Council. The said poster contained the name of La. The last two and the La Traditional Council consider the appearance of La on the poster erroneous and inappropriate, since La was not party to the Ghana Yeleyeli program. As found by the subcommittee of the National House of Chiefs on the applications for elevation of 12 stools from divisional to paramount status in the Ghana traditional area of the Greater Accra region in May 2011, La owes no allegiance to the Ghana Mantse and the Ghana Paramount Stool, and is therefore independent of the Ghana Paramount Stool's customs and traditions. Hence, it is inappropriate for the name of La to be associated with the Gasen Yeleyeli program. The last two and the La Traditional Council have also cited an online news publication attached, captioned Ghana State Council announced replacing Ghana Traditional Council. The said publication also contained the name of La. The last two and the La Traditional Council want all and sundry to know that they know nothing about the said publication and therefore have nothing to do with it. Also, as found by the subcommittee of the National House of Chiefs in May 2011, La is autonomous with its own traditional and customary arrangements and its own traditional council, the La Traditional Council. The last two and the La Traditional Council de-associate themselves from the said poster and publication and call on the authors to correct the erroneous inclusion of La and also refrain from using the name of La in matters it has no association with, in order not to create any wrong impression and misinform the public. This is our statement. So if you peruse the attached document, the poster, you attest to what we are saying, that the name of La has been included without our consent and without us being part of the right that they performed. Concerning the Ghana State Council announced replacing the Ghana Traditional Council, as we said in the statement, we know nothing about that, and it has nothing to do with us. But to expatiate on that, La, as we said in the statement, is autonomous, meaning we are independent. And that is the structure of the Ghana states. All the Ghana states came on their own without not being under anyone and not owing allegiance to anyone. So we are all independent states with our own customary and then traditional arrangements. To buttress that, we have a report of the subcommittee of the National House of Chiefs on the applications of the 12 stools from divisional to paramount status in the Ghana traditional area of the Ghana of the Greater Accra region. It is a whole report, but I will read some salient or the important parts to let you understand what the issues really are. So I will go straight to paragraph 1.57. But before I read that, I will read the methodology, how the committee arrived at their conclusions. This committee was made up of Berima Ofe Akwesi Okujiaso II. The Kukufohini, he was the chairman. Dasibre Professor Otibuatin, the late New Dwabin Mantse, was a member. Nana Soglo Alo Otekple of Lipe was also a member. Okujiman Kweku Jampra III, Seshui Chirano Hini was also a member. Dr. Henry Sedu Dana, Director of Research then at the National House, was also a member. He was the former Minister of Chieftaincy Affairs. Mr. John Domale Counsel, that is a lawyer of the National House of Chiefs, was also a member. Mr. Akwesi Asari Ankuma, Assistant Registrar, Ministry of Chieftaincy Affairs and Culture, was the secretary. Per their methodology, what they stated was that apart from oral evidence, the committee consulted and made references to published materials. They relied on previous works. That is, some work has already been done on the subject matter. And they observed those works or cited them. The first one was a commission of inquiry appointed by the colonial government in 1907 with John Maxwell and F.G. Grother as members. The next one, the second one they cited was the committee of inquiry appointed by the National Redemption Council in 1975 under the chairmanship of Justice I.K. Abang, Justice of the High Court of Judicature, as he was then, and Nana Kwafu Akuto Omanhini of Akwamu Traditional Area, and Na P.K. Paul Nandomna as members. So as we can see, it is not a new issue. Some work have been done on it before the National House pronounced on it. To go to the parts that I want to bring to your attention, paragraph 1.57 is titled Origins of the Ga-Speaking People. And the report states, in terms of origin of the Ga-Speaking people, we observe that the Gans, as presently constituted, migrated in different groups from outside this country and settled at different locations, at their present locations. Consequently, we find that the Ga-speaking people are made up of 7 well-identifiable and autonomous groups. I will reiterate that again. The Ga-speaking people are made up of 7 well-identifiable and autonomous groups. These are Tema, Nungwa, Teshin, Osu, La, Jamestown, which is English Yalata, and Gamashi. I go to the next paragraph, which is 1.58, which is titled Political and Traditional Organization. The committee stated, we observe that each of the 7 autonomous groups has had its own political, traditional, and customary arrangements or governance systems without interference from each other. Consequently, we find that the towns of Tema, Teshin, Nungwa, La, Osu, and Jamestown owes no allegiance to the Ga Mantse. Suffice to say that they only became part of the Ga Traditional Council by legislation and for administrative purposes. 1.59, Gamashi. The committee observed, or they stated, we observed that Gamashi is made up of 7 divisions, namely Abola, Asren, Bese, Otublohun, Sempe, Akamaje, and Jamestown, we find that all divisions except Jamestown, which is English Alata, owe allegiance to the Mantse. We find again that even though the separate divisions of Mashie, together with Tema, Teshin, Nungwa, Osula, Jamestown, constituted one traditional council, it does not make them one and the same stock of people belonging to one traditional area. We observe that the term Mantse is misleading, as it creates the impression that the Mantse is the paramount chief of all Ga-speaking people. We found that the Mantse is the paramount chief of Mashie. This is what the committee found based on evidence and on work that has previously been done. So it buttresses our point in our press statement that La is autonomous, and La is autonomous, and then we are independent of Mashie. Therefore, we cannot be party to their customs and then rights. Based on the findings, the committee in paragraph 1.61, titled Restoration to Previous Paramountcy Status, the committee makes a unanimous recommendation that the following towns and traditional areas should be restored or reverted to their previous status as paramountcies, and they are Tema, Teshin, Nungwa, Osula, Jamestown, and English Alata, which is same as Jamestown. 1.62, divisional status. The committee is unable to arrive at a consensus on the status of the following 6 divisional stools within the Mashie traditional area. By a majority of 4 against a minority of 2, they are to remain divisional stools of Mashie, as by custom they owe allegiance to the Mantse as the paramount chief. The stools are Sempe, Abola, Asren, Akamaji, Bese, and Otublo. So it is clear from the report the divisions who owe allegiance to the Mantse. While the minority recommends that all except Abola should be elevated to paramountcies, the majority rather recommends that divisional councils should be created for them. In their conclusion, they touched on the title Overlord and 1.65, which is titled Overlord. They stated, we are unable to recommend the position of the Mantse as overlord of the paramount chiefs of the various traditional areas, as we lack jurisdiction in that regard. In any case, we have the question of the formation of we leave the question of the formation of a free and voluntary association of chiefs to the chiefs and people to decide. I will take that again. In any case, we leave the question of the formation of a free and voluntary association of chiefs to the chiefs and people to decide. The reason why we call this gathering, as we said, is to set the record straight, because the information is out there and it is generating controversy. And some people are of the view that Ga needs to unite, and those who are against what is going on are against unity. We are not against unity. We are for unity. And as the report stated, if there is the need for the formation of any united group, it should depend on the voluntary association of the chiefs and people. So, we are not doing this because we are against unity, but the right thing needs to be done. What has gone on wasn't right, and it is also not appropriate. So we are setting the record straight for all and sundry to know the position of La. That one, La is not part of Mashie, does not owe allegiance to the Mantse or the paramount too. Therefore, we are not party to the rights that they performed. And also with the news that there will be a Ghana State Council, that there will no longer be a Ghana Traditional Council. We know nothing about that, and that also doesn't concern La. And to touch on that, the councils of chiefs are regulated by law. For any council to be set up, it has to be in accordance with law. It is the Chieftaincy Act that enshrines the laws that establishes traditional councils, divisional councils, regional House of Chiefs, and the National House of Chiefs. As we sit now, we have not seen any amendment to the law that creates a new council or abolishes any. So we cannot attest to the veracity of the news that came out that Ghana State Council will be created and then the Ghana Traditional Council will be abolished. To us, that is not in accordance with the law, and we are not going by that.